Hey everybody, James Introcasso here. Before we start the show, I just wanted to let you know that this episode of Tabletop Babble is brought to you by D&D Beyond. D&D Beyond are the official digital tool companion of Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, that game that we all know and love. You can build characters, encounters, and so much more with D&D Beyond. Plus, you can share all your stuff with your players, put cool custom items in your game, and so much more. And there's all kinds of free, great content like articles from James J. Hake, videos from Todd Kenrick, and so much more. So do me a favor, head on over to dndbeyond.com and go check out all the awesome that is there for free and all the cool stuff you can also pay for. There's almost always a sale going on. And when you do, and when you fall in love, tell them DSPN sent you. All right, let's start the show. This is Tabletop Babble. I'm James Introcasso. Today on the show, I have an amazing game designer named Jessica Marcrum, who is chatting with me all about game design. She has made some cool adventures for Dungeons and Dragons. She's also got a bunch of stuff on itch. She's just so prolific and so incredible and an amazingly kind and wonderful human being. So, here is my chat with Jessica Marcrum. Prepare to have your game design minds blown. Okay, everyone, now I am here with one of my favorite people and a great game designer who I have not had the privilege of having many conversations with, but whenever I do, it is always filled with fun and laughs and mind-blowing ideas. Jess, for people who don't know, who are you and what do you do in the world of tabletop role-playing games?
Hi, I'm Jessica Marcrum, and I design games and supplements.
Yes, you do. And we're actually going to be talking a lot today about your latest release well, I don't actually know if it's your latest release, but it is a big collaboration that you have put out very recently on the Dungeon Masters Guild. What is that?
That's Book of Seasons Solstices. Mm-hmm. Although depending on when this comes out, it might be Book of Seasons Equinoxes.
Oh, okay. All right. That is really, really cool. So it sounds like there is another collaboration also in the works. Now, we've talked a bit about these. Ashley Warren came on and talked with us. We talked with Kat and Alicia about Eat the Rich. So this seems to be an ongoing trend of adventure anthologies appearing on the DM's Guild.
Yeah. I know Kat and Alicia and I all met as part of Ashley's Uncaged, which is pretty cool. So Book of Seasons actually started in the Uncaged Discord, which is pretty neat.
Oh, cool. So give me the rundown. What is the Book of Seasons all about?
So it is 20 tier 1 through 4 adventures that are based around seasons. So Solstices, which came out in December, is based around winter and summer adventures. And Equinoxes, which is coming out in March. So get hyped for March. Is based around spring and fall adventures.
So, spring and fall adventures, the equinoxes, right?
Yep.
And then winter and summer, the solstices, which is very cool. And one of the things that I think is challenging, so obviously summer and winter, very different seasons. Mm-hmm. I think even people who live in areas where they don't necessarily get all 4 seasons understand the difference between those, right?
Yeah.
But fall and spring are kind of close to one another in the sense of like temperature wise, you know what I mean? Like one You're going from summer to fall and vice versa in the other. So what are some of the sort of big differences between fall and spring that you are finding and latching onto?
So all of our adventure creators and writers took different aspects of what the seasons mean to them, which is very cool. So in some of them, it was something that they love about a season. It might have been something that they hate about a season, or in terms of particularly with spring and fall, what a season might mean to them. So we have a lot of death and rebirth stuff in spring and fall coming up in equinoxes.
Gotcha. Yes, absolutely. Right. Those are huge thematic elements. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today is because I want to talk about writing themed adventures with you. But before we get into that, I'd love for you to take me back to when you first played a tabletop role-playing game and sort of tell me, what was the experience? What were you playing? Were you the DM? How did it all go?
Oh, okay. Well, the first time I tried to play an RPG, I failed. I was in high school and it was D&D 3.5. And I was invited by my boyfriend to a game run by his friend. And I got halfway through character creation. And then the DM came and was like, I don't let girls at my table. And also, we're all level 12 and you have to be level 1. You have to earn your way to level 12. Basically, so you'll just die, you'll waste your time, you'll waste our time, so you can't play.
Wow.
So I was like, tabletop is for nerds, I hate this.
Sure, yes.
And I didn't play again for about 12 years. Mm-hmm. And then one of my friends who works at a game store was like, you're an opera singer who loves fantasy, like, why are you not into tabletop? This makes no sense. I'm going to run a game and it's going to be all newbies and you're going to love it. Mm-hmm. So he ran Tunnels and Trolls.
Yes.
Which, it sounds like you played it, but for anyone listening who hasn't, it came out like a year after D&D and it's similar, but you only use D6s. So you get to throw like 10 or 20 D6s. And you can be a leprechaun, or I was a fairy in my first game. And it was so fun. And I was hooked. And then a year later, I was running Mouse Guard. And then just kind of started playing D&D. I think Dark Sun was the first D&D campaign that I played.
Nice.
Yeah. And then kind of went from there.
Wow. Okay. All right. So this is a pretty amazing story that you have going on, especially because you do not hear many people say they started with Tunnels and Trolls these days. That's not like a common starter for someone your age, who I would consider a young person in this industry.
I think I'm older than you are.
Well, I consider myself a young person too, right? So it's don't make me not young by I was including us in the same generation of entitled individuals, right?
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, so how does this blossom into a passion for game design?
Actually, with Uncaged, I was at that same game store where my friend works and now my partner works, and another friend came up to me and pulled out his phone and showed me Ashley's call to action for Uncaged and was like, look, this is you, because I love mythology. And at the time I was finishing up, I think, my master's in social work. And so he was like, this is a feminist thing. It's a mythology thing. You have to do this. And I was like, but I've never written a game. I can't, I'm not good enough. And he was like, no, but you've been DMing for years. It's basically the same thing. Just write down something more structured than your notes.
Right.
And so I did. And I was so nervous I wouldn't get in that I wrote 2 pitches. And Ashley took both of them. So that's why I'm in volumes 1 and 4.
Got it. And so from there, you went from like, okay, I'm participating in this thing. It has an open call to now I will do this myself, right? Are there steps in between I'm missing? Or were you like that gung-ho that you were just diving right into leading a project?
Well, I wrote a couple other adventures for different things. I wrote a couple characters for like Villains and Layers 2. I did stuff for Friends, Foes, and Other Fine Folks, basically like hopping around other projects. And then people started kicking around the idea of season themed adventures in the Uncaged Discord. We actually have a whole Excel sheet run by Colette Kwok that's like Uncaged adjacent projects. And I was already running one that is coming out hopefully pretty soon. That's the Uncaged Tarot cards. So I'm not an artist, but I'm wrangling artists to get those out. But someone mentioned like, hey, it would be cool if we did a seasonal thing like for Christmas. And this was back in April, maybe. And a lot of people had a bunch of ideas for that. And Jen Paig, who's the art director for Book of Seasons, was like, yeah, or what if like for the covers or something, we had like a goddess who represented the seasons, and you could be like a warlock who got your patronage from the season, or the adventures came from the seasons and it went from that. And I was like, that's cool. You should run that project. And she was like, please don't put me in charge of things. And I was like, well, I'm not running another project, but I will run it with you. So then she kind of handled art wrangling and I handled writer wrangling and editor wrangling. And we asked some good people to come in and be leads for layout and editing for that. And yeah, then it just kind of happened.
And you were like, oh, I guess this is a thing we're doing now. I know that.
Yeah, pretty much. I like realized I had to come up with deadlines for people, and I just looked at the ones Ashley had done for Uncaged, and I was like, this seems reasonable. I guess I'm just going to follow her model and do it.
Sure. And now you have a product out there. That is amazing. So you've written for these anthologies. You have now directed 2 of them yourself. What are you looking for specifically in a thematic adventure? How important is the theme to an adventure, and how do we bring it to the surface as designers? And you can feel free to use, obviously, anything that you have worked on as an example.
So I think it's very important. It doesn't have to be overdone, but it definitely has to be something that is apparent. So, for example, Large Paw Music Festival is one that Christina Kindle wrote for Book of Seasons Summer. And it's not about summer, but the entire thing takes place at a summer music festival. So because to Christina, she wanted to pay homage to the music festivals of the Pacific Northwest. For example, there's also things like the one that I did for this one, Revenge of the Forgotten, is specifically about winter deities that nobody really pays attention to anymore.
Okay.
And what if they all got mad that they were being ignored and decided to take it out on a town? So that one is a little bit more specific, like this is about winter, as opposed to this is a thing you can do in the summer. But they're both ways of portraying the season by kind of just having it take place. There are other ones that sort of, with the fall ones, we have, I don't want to give it away, but it's really cool. So I'm just going to say it. There's a dragon made out of autumn leaves.
Oh, that is super cool. I love that.
I know. I'm not going to say which adventure it's in, but it's very cool. And there's art for it. And it's really cool. So that's a way to mention the theme. There's also a couple things that just kind of touch on it. With Uncaged, it was just clear that, it had to be feminist. The female monster had to be present and active, and as well as the characters being present and active, right? Because you don't want a game where your characters are just kind of being dragged along in service to the plot. It's still a game. It's not a story.
Right.
One thing I loved that Ashley said was that the female monsters can still be villainous, but not mindlessly villainous. So they can still be doing bad things, but they need a reason to be doing the bad things because they're still people.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that makes perfect sense, right? That There are very bad things that can be perpetrated by people who have a good reason for it. And there's that old quote about villains, right? Villains think that they're in the right, which I think can be an oversimplification. And I think what else is great about Uncaged is they're not always necessarily villainous monsters either. It runs the gamut. So theme can be a pretty broad term, it seems like then.
Yeah, and like for Eat the Rich, I know you talked to Kat and Alicia, but
yes,
they were basically just like, this can't be capitalist. And the, rich capitalist folk aren't the good people. So it was basically how to tear down the existing systems and basically destabilize colonialism in your narrative. So as long as that was included, even as an option, like My Adventure is coming out in I think volume 3 for that one. And I include it in, it's about vampires. So I include a way for the party to side with the vampires because the lure of being rich and powerful is really seductive. The party can become the bad guys in mine. But
nice.
That's not necessarily the good thing. It's just a thing that happens. In the quote unquote good ending, obviously they destroy the vampires and help the town rebuild and become an autonomous collective.
Well, and it's great that there are options like that because I do think people can tend to think of theme as a very strict thing, right? As like, hey, if your adventure does not have the most fall of all fall things, it is not an autumn themed adventure. Like if you are not wearing brightly colored leaf armor and going back to school and celebrating Halloween in this adventure, then this is not a fall adventure at all, right?
No, we have one in Solstices by Nemo, Awkward Bard, that is a summer adventure where summer doesn't come.
Oh, interesting.
It's all about, like, it's supposed to be summer. It's called House of Light, Children of Shadows. And the whole thing is like, it's supposed to be summer, but it's not, and it's cold.
Hey everybody, James and Chicasso here. I just wanted to take a quick break to let you know that this episode of Tabletop Babble is brought to you by the Hero Forge 2.0 Kickstarter, currently ongoing. Got 10 days left at the time of this podcast dropping, and it's got over $2.2 million. Why? Because it's incredible. You know Hero Forge. They are the company that makes custom miniatures you can build in browser, and they use cutting-edge 3D printing technology to make awesome plastic, metal, and more miniatures. Well, guess what? Now they are printing in color. This is great for me because I hate painting minis. Yeah, that's right. They will print your mini in color, which is insane. Their online tool now has all these incredible coloring options, and you can get them to print it in color or hand paint it. Hand-painted minis that you customly design. What age are we living in? This is amazing. There's all kinds of great tools from dry brushing to washing and inking that you can use right there in browser. Plus, there's a token maker for virtual tabletops. That's right. So go check it out. You are going to want to get in on the Hero Forge 2.0 Kickstarter. There's so many amazing rewards and great things to choose from. So go, do it right now. And make sure you tell them DSPN sent you. So how do we use theme as something that propels our design and isn't necessarily a hurdle then?
I think it's just like a template in that it can help you. Right? Like, it's something that you can base your narrative around, and it's really there to help you more than anything else. Like, if you find yourself bashing your head against a theme, then there's something about it that isn't working for you. Like, maybe it's really just not the project for you. Sometimes it doesn't fit, but in general, you should be able to make the theme fit your needs.
Yeah, I think that is very true, that especially when you think of theme as broad and then you think of the things that are all encompassing in that theme, right? And I love the idea of like, the absence of X thing, right? So when I think about the absence of something that is in a theme like Christmas, right? How many movies are there about Christmas that is like, we didn't have Christmas? Oh no. And they are still Christmas themed to, know, very much so. So I think that is a huge way of thinking about things. Is how important is this to the people that it means something to, especially when you have a theme that is a season or a concept or something like that I think is great. When you were looking and evaluating adventures, how important was the theme in what you were accepting, right? Like, obviously there was a threshold there that they had to say. It couldn't just be like, my adventure's about a dragon and they're going to kill it, and it happens to be fall, like there was a hurdle to overcome. How high was that hurdle as far as theme goes?
So it was funny, since it started as an Uncaged spin-off project, I was pretty much like, anybody who wants to be in it, you're in it.
Nice. That's great.
And then I got this arbitrary number of 20 in my head, because I was like, yeah, 10 adventures for each season. That's good. It's a nice round number. I could say there's 20 adventures in the book. And then I reached a point where I was like, I have 10 fall adventures and 10 winter adventures, because it was like becoming fall. Right. And I was like, I have no one to write spring and summer. So I had a couple people volunteer to double up. But yeah, it was really hard to find people to write summer adventures. And then evaluating theme, I wasn't even going to have the team do outlines, because I find outlines annoying. Okay. I know Ashley swears by them. I'm a writer's workshop dropout, so slap on the wrist for me about that. But a lot of the writers are like, yeah, can you give us a deadline for outlines? And it ended up being great. I loved looking at their outlines, and I, in future projects, will definitely give an outline deadline, or at least accept pitches, because it helped me make sense of everything. Because then I saw that a couple people were not including the theme at all. It was just like, this is a puzzle dungeon, and it's run by a spirit of this season or something, but they wouldn't even specify that. It was just like, there's a puzzle dungeon that they go through. And I was like, well, what does that have to do with spring, actually? Can we make that about spring?
Sure, yeah.
And then they're like, oh, yeah. So I was like, could there be flowers in the puzzle dungeon? Or is it like, are they trying to hatch an egg with the dungeon? What's going on? And one of the ones with mine, I was one of the people who doubled up, because the first thing that I do is, if extra work needs to be done, is like, me, I will do it. So I was the first person to take an extra adventure. And
sure, you didn't have enough to do. I understand.
Exactly. So I was like, I'll write two. And it was actually a fall one that we were short. And I was like, oh, fall werewolves, because of the Thriller music video. So I was like, I'll write it about werewolves, and that's fall. And then when I was looking at it, I was like, this isn't really about fall just because it's about a werewolf. So I had to, expand upon that a little bit. I put in a little tie to Guy Fawkes Day. There's an effigy burning in there. And I was like, you can buy pumpkin spice lattes in the adventure now. So I was like, hopefully that hits a little bit closer to fall.
Well, so that is a great point. So what steps do you take if you're like, oh, I've written what I feel is a good adventure, but I have missed the theme. This is either part of an anthology, or I wanted to make something thematic, and I've lost the point here. How do you get things back on track? Certainly having something like werewolves, which are spooky and scary, and Halloween is associated with, if you can steer that then towards the direction of fall, right, with some pumpkin spice lattes and Guy Fawkes Day and things like that, I think you hit the mark then. How do other people do that? Like your puzzle dungeon example, right? If I were to write a killer puzzle dungeon, and then I'm like, oh no, this needs to relate to bread, and I forgot to include bread, or whatever it is, how do we make that happen?
So let's see, to make bread into your puzzle dungeon, you could make it that a reward for solving each puzzle was an ingredient you needed to make your bread.
Oh, excellent. You're right. Right. So I think, right, if you think of things that are, I don't know, small fixes, right? Theme, I think, can be mood. It can be the main point of an adventure, right? Like, oh no, Christmas is missing. Let's save Christmas, certainly. But it could also be the setting where it takes place, or a mood like that, or and I think you're good to go. What are some creative ways that you have seen people use theme?
I mean, I was about to say something about like read aloud text would also be a quick and dirty way to do it. Be like, you walk on crunching leaves. Um,
That's true. That's true. We love read aloud text here at Tabletop Babble. It's our favorite. So yeah, no, but I think that's true, right? Having a lot of descriptors is a great way to hit on your theme. It's certainly right, like Curse of Strahd reads like a gothic horror adventure, even if you take out all of the monsters, right, and left the description.
Yes.
It would still be creepy and weird.
So this was a kind of cool way to use the theme. In Jackie Lung's Festival of the Burning Wreath in Solstices, it's the whole thing hinges on a volleyball tournament between two spirits, or they're not spirits, they're elementals who are trying to take control of an island. And you can play on either of their side, or you can kind of play on your own side, or just be like, I just want to watch two elementals play volleyball. And so it's between the fire and wind elementals and like who is going to be in charge of this island.
Nice. And so it's determined by a game of volleyball.
Yeah, that you roll for, basically.
That is amazing. I love that. I think there's a lot of great things that I have seen come out of adventure anthologies because the designers challenged themselves, or someone challenged the designer to think of theme in a different way. Particularly in these adventure anthologies, I think it's probably important to think outside the box with the theme a little bit, because I don't know if you got did you get a bunch of proposals that were all the same kind of thing?
I didn't. They were so different, which is great. And like I said, I didn't even really have proposals. I was just like, hey, you're in, do the thing.
Which means someone could write a whole adventure and be like, oh, we wrote the same adventure. Cool.
But they're not like that at all. It's so cool. Like in that even same tier is Kat Evans's Cruel Summer, which is basically, so Kat hates summer. She writes about that in the adventure. And so her take on it is sort of Escape from Pompeii, because that's what summer feels like to her.
Nice. Okay. That's fascinating, right? That the hatred of summer, right? Because I do think that's a beloved season.
Yeah.
People love their summers. People love them. So there's all kinds of cool stuff happening with these anthologies. Is this something you think you will do again once you finish up your equinoxes?
Not for a long time.
Okay. It's a lot of work.
It's so much work. And I didn't realize, I mean, I should have realized how much work it would be. I have no idea how Ashley does this by herself. Like, I did this with a team. I was still the last point of contact, or I guess, final point of contact, I guess, for everything that happens.
The boss.
Yeah.
The boss with the sauce, as my dad would say.
But, this has over 50 people in it, and that was a lot of people to manage for, my first project. A lot of people to catch up on, to check, to make sure that everybody was doing what they needed to be doing. And I don't like hassling people to make sure that they're doing their work. I don't like checking up to make sure that people are doing the things they're supposed to be doing. So I might run some smaller projects. I might run another big one in the future. We'll see. But I would need a break after this. I'm looking forward to getting Equinoxes out and then taking a nap.
Yeah, super smart, definitely. And it is, I will say, I think it can be surprising when you're managing 50 people, none of whom are necessarily doing RPG stuff as like a full-time job. Can be surprising how many people, for whatever reason, miss their deadline, do nothing that they said they were going to do, and that kind of thing. And it can lead to a lot of last-minute scrambling as well. So, and I think that is a thing not a lot of people necessarily know before they are faced with what this didn't happen. Oh no,
Right.
Yeah. Well, my hat is off to you because I think it is a great thing. And it's always wonderful to see these anthologies, especially when they're giving a lot of people who are new to the hobby or new to writing a chance. So that was the thing. You probably had to manage some newer writers, right?
Well, like I said, all of the writers from this were Uncaged writers, except for Oliver Clegg, who filled in because we had a last minute writer drop, as in like a writer dropped 2 days before David Markowski was starting layout. So I desperately reached out to Ollie and I was like, hi, we're friends and I know you can write fast. Can you write me an adventure in 2 days? And Kat can edit it in 1 day. And he was like, yep. So he did, and it's amazing. It's a time loop adventure and it's excellent. But yeah, all the other writers, I mean, no one here is a professional. We all have other jobs. But all of the, except for Ollie, all the writers are from Uncaged. Most of the artists are. The ones who aren't are, I like to call Uncaged adjacent, because they were either from Friends, Foes, or Other Fine Folks, or they're friends of Uncaged people. There are a couple artists who this is their first published anthology, but they've been doing other stuff like character commissions and stuff like that.
Yeah, that is, it's remarkable, and it is a really remarkable thing what the Uncaged community can come together and do. And it is remarkable what you have done with this project and with leading this community. So I am excited to see what you continue to do. I'm excited to see Equinoxes when it comes out. I'm excited for you to take a well-deserved rest. So, there are many, many great things for people out there who want to get started writing but aren't sure how. What advice do you have for them?
Join Ashley's RPG Writers Workshop. It's fantastic. I was a mentor in it. I wrote one of the courses. I might be leading a course on writing for Itch.io coming up. It's really helpful. When I did it, I didn't complete it because I was using it to like supplement writing my Uncaged adventures, and I'd already written them. And I was like, oh, but this is still good information. And I took the course material. I just didn't write an adventure alongside it, which is why I called myself a dropout. But also, like, if you have something in mind that you want to write, grab a template and just start writing. If you want a template, contact somebody whose stuff that you like whether it's me or anybody else who's writing that you are a fan of, and just contact us on Twitter and ask. We'll send you something like a template if that's it, or ask someone to take a look at your writing, but start writing.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the best advice. Start writing and certainly check out the workshop because, oh, wow, is it great. Yeah, thank you so much, Jess. For people who want to find you, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at Miss_Jess03. And you can find me on my Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/angrynerdgirl. I run Princesses Save Dragons on Sundays, and Three Flings, which is 3 tieflings going through all of Uncaged Anthology on Fridays. And starting, depending on when you hear this Tuesday, but every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Onyx Path's Twitch channel, I run Paws and Claws, Lost Tales of Pugmire.
Yes, Pugmire. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. So please go check out Jess, an amazing designer who is going to be topping the DMs Guild charts soon with another anthology. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun. I should have said my website. It's just my name. It's jessicamarkrumwrites.com.
Go to jessicamarkrumwrites.com and have an awesome time while you are there checking out the amazing work of this great human. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was a great conversation with Jess. You know, people, if you've been listening to Tabletop Babble now for over 160 episodes, wow, that is a ton. And it is worth at least $1 a month to you. Head on over to patreon.com/Introcaso. That's patreon.com/INTROCASO. And you can leave us $1 a month or more and get some extras. I'm talking about surveys that will help steer the direction of the show, written content from me, advice about game design or stuff that you can use in your games, like new monsters, that kind of thing, and also new videos from me talking about game design and stuff like that. But the real reward is that you get to support this show that you know and love and shows up reliably every week in your podcatcher. To those of you already giving, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. We could not do this show without your support. And hey, maybe you've already given and you want to do something extra, or you can't afford to give. I totally understand that. You know what you can do? Create a free iTunes account. Head on over to iTunes. Leave us a 5-star review. Even if you're not using Apple Podcasts to listen, odds are the podcatcher app you are using uses the iTunes algorithms to rate and recommend podcasts to others. And if you're listening in Apple Podcasts right now, it's just a couple of clicks to bang us out 5 stars. Boop, boop, right there in app, you can do it. And if you leave us a 5-star review, I will read your review out loud. You can make me say absolutely anything you want, like Mand Wookie. Mand Wookie left a review entitled "Great Show About RPGs and Their Creators." It reads, "This show is great with a lot of info on the TTRPGs. James brings high energy into every episode and his guests answer in kind. Everyone I've listened to so far has been passionate about the industry and the community because they are part of it. They share stories and advice that are a treasure trove of knowledge worthy of a dragon. Capital D, dragon. Thank you so much, Mand Wookie. I really appreciate this review. Thank you to everybody who's listened and left a podcast review. Thank you for subscribing. It means so much to me. And hey, you want to check out more of me? I don't know why you do, but head on over to Twitter. Follow me at James Introcaso and worldbuilderblog.com for my blog. Go check that out. Tabletop Babble is a show on the Don't Split the Podcast Network. Thanks to Rudy Basso for founding it with me. Our theme music, which you're listening to right now, was provided by Battle Bards. Don't forget, RPGs are like sex. Hey everybody, James Introcaso here. I just wanted to take a quick break from this episode of Tabletop Babble to let you know that it's sponsored by Kobold Press and the Tome of Beasts 2 Kickstarter, which is happening right now. The publisher of the original smash hit Tome of Beasts, Kobold Press, is wrangling a new horde of wildly original, often lethal, and highly entertaining 5e compatible monsters to challenge new players and veteran players alike. Tome of Beasts 2 will bring 400 new monsters to 5th edition, from angelic enforcers, Sasquatch, and shriekbats, to psychic vampires, zombie dragons, and so much more. And guess what? I made some of the creatures we just mentioned, in addition to like another 27 or so that are in there. So a bunch of these critters are mine. All Tome of Beasts 2 Kickstarters who back at the $25 level can submit an original monster design for possible publication. I did this for the first Tome of Beasts. It's how Kobold Press first saw my work. It was amazing and exciting. These books are amazing. You are going to want them at your table. They're play tested. They are carefully crafted and expertly made. And in addition to the hardcover volume and PDFs, the Kickstarter will fund the creation of monster pawns, virtual tabletop versions, monster lairs with beautiful maps, and so much more. Find out more at koboldpress.com or go to Kickstarter and search for Tome of Beasts 2 and tell them DSPN sent you.